You probably woke up today feeling relatively secure about humanity's place on this planet. But beneath that daily comfort, the reality is our species is mathematically burning down a very short fuse. To understand our timeline, we have to look at the historical baseline. Earth is roughly 4.5 billion years old. Since complex life emerged, the average mammalian species has managed to survive anywhere from 1 million to 10 million years before naturally going extinct. By applying the Copernican principle, a statistical rule arguing that you're almost always observing a system during its middle rather than its very beginning or its end, Princeton academic J. Richard Gott ran the numbers on human survival. The math suggests our species should have a comfortable buffer of 800,000 to roughly 7.8 million years stretching out ahead of us. Because we are likely observing humanity in the middle of its evolutionary run, we have hundreds of thousands of generations left to safely populate this planet. However, this calculation assumes that humanity is a passive passenger on an evolutionary track, governed strictly by natural laws. It fails to account for a species that has developed the technological agency to terminate its own timeline. That massive biological timeline is currently at odds with a much more immediate countdown. The doomsday clock, maintained by atomic scientists, has spent recent years hovering just minutes away from midnight, the symbolic marker for global catastrophe. When it was launched in 1947, this clock was strictly a tool to measure our proximity to an all-out nuclear war. Herein lies the paradox of modern human existence. Evolution granted our species a biological runway of millions of years, yet our own rapid technological advancements have given us the precise tools to dismantle our civilization in a fraction of a second. Humanity does not behave like a normal mammal. Instead of coasting on the slow, reliable pace of our evolutionary timeline, we are actively choosing to speedrun towards an exit. To see how we broke our own timeline, we need to look at how the Earth usually handles death. Over the last few billion years, roughly 99% of all species that have ever existed have gone extinct. Historically, animal and plant populations fluctuate based on their environment. As Charles Darwin noted, species survive by slowly, meticulously evolving to adapt to unexpected shifts in climate and resources over immense periods of time. That gradual hum of everyday extinction is occasionally interrupted by massive planetary traumas. 252 million years ago, volcanic magma violently piercing upward through the Earth's crust triggered the Permian extinction, one of the big 5 mass extinctions in our planet's history. A disaster only qualifies as a mass extinction if it manages to eradicate at least half of the species on our planet. Even in the case of the massive Big Five events, the complete breakdown of the global ecosystem took millions of years to fully unfold. Until very recently, planetary extinction was an incredibly slow, entirely blind force of nature. The animals and plants being wiped out had absolutely no control over their fate. That dynamic shifted completely during a period in the mid-20th century, known as the Great Acceleration. This was the exact moment humanity bypassed billions of years of natural evolution and seized control of the global environment. This chart displays the historical levels of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. Notice how the data maintains a flat, stable baseline for hundreds of thousands of years, and then spikes almost vertically the moment we reach the Industrial Revolution. Our oceans have absorbed 90% of the massive, sudden heat generated by those man-made emissions, driving a 1 degree Celsius rise in the global temperature. That extreme rapid warming pushes rich aquatic ecosystems straight past their tipping points. At this rate, entire ecological networks, like global coral reefs, could completely disappear by the year 2050. We can measure the severity of this damage by looking at the death toll. Approximately 200 species of vertebrates have died out in the last 100 years. If we were relying strictly on the natural background rate of extinction, losing those same 200 species would have taken 10,000 years. Our industrial footprint has outpaced biological evolution. We have moved from competing for resources to dismantling the systems that provide them, triggering the 6th mass extinction in real time. This extreme acceleration has forced our timeline to compress. Current data suggests we have only until roughly 2030 to drastically cut global CO2 emissions before we lock in irreversible climate collapse. That immediate, intense pressure is compounded by dozens of other active threats. We are simultaneously dodging natural inevitabilities, like the eruption of geothermal supervolcanoes, and terrifying modern medical hazards, like highly contagious, untreatable pathogens. As biological, natural, and man-made disasters begin to stack on top of one another, our statistical window for long-term survival rapidly shrinks. The sixth mass extinction has already devastated 75% of terrestrial habitats and 66% of marine habitats. It is a present-day collapse, moving far faster than the natural background rate of decay. Humans have spent thousands of years obsessing over external apocalyptic prophecies. We panic over rogue planets crashing into our orbit, and we dig through ancient end-of-days calendars looking for an exact expiration date. There is a heavy irony in looking up to the sky in fear of a killer asteroid. The relentless scale of human industry has matched the destructive force of a cosmic impact, entirely on its own. Before his death, the physicist Stephen Hawking evaluated our trajectory. He chillingly revised his own prediction for humanity's longevity, lowering our remaining time from 1,000 years down to just 100. The planet itself is under no immediate astronomical threat. The sun is not scheduled to expand and consume the Earth in a blanket of fire for another 5 billion years. The Earth will endure for 5 billion years, regardless of our presence. For the first time in history, a species has the conscious power to either engineer its own demise or choose to preserve itself. Our only remaining variable is whether we decide to be here to witness the future.